What's up, everybody? Happy hour. Happy Friday. Welcome into this all new happy hour edition of the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You know that already. Thanks so much for being here. Hope your Friday is treating you well. Hope you have an even better weekend. We've got some, what Badgers play tonight, right? College football this weekend. Should be a really fun weekend of college football and just all the amazing stuff as we get sort of ramped up for this first week of NFL action. Of course, NFL starts next Thursday, Packer game Friday. Should be a really fun next week and a half as we kind of dig into all this stuff. But we've obviously got a lot to discuss. Lots happened this week. 53-man roster cut downs, building of the practice squad, a couple more additions today, including Andrew Beck, Michael Pirine, and one other corner whose name I already forgot, but we'll dig into him a little bit more as time goes on as well. So we had Nate McCrary go on practice squad IR, which was interesting. So obviously the least of kind of the news stories this week with all the roster moves, but still some intriguing ones towards the end of the day here today. Happy to answer all of your questions per usual. We will get to as many as we possibly can. I have probably about 45 minutes, maybe a little bit more than that. We'll see. And then per usual, we'll answer all of the super chats first, followed by as many member questions as I can get to, and then any other questions after that. So thanks again for being here. You guys are the absolute best. Let's get after it right freaking away. Parker, love the pod, Andy. I won't be able to catch happy hour, but what college football game are you most excited to watch this weekend? I have not looked at the schedule yet. I did get a chance to watch a little bit of both the games last night. A Minnesota kicker missing at the end was just beautiful. Oh, Georgia Clemson's this weekend, right? Yeah, probably Georgia Clemson. Obviously, Badgers playing tonight will be fun. Probably Badgers just because I'm interested to see this team this year. They've got a very tough schedule. So I'll say Badgers just because I'm a homer in that regard, but Georgia Clemson would definitely be on my list as well. Most hated Minnesotan coming in strong already with 5 gift Pack-A-Day podcast memberships. Appreciate that a ton. Most hated Minnesotan. Hope you are doing well. All right. What else we got here? Would Welch be on this team if Eric Wilson wasn't in Green Bay? Who is more likely to be called up this season, King or Rochelle, Merriweather or McCrary? Well, we got the last one. McCrary's on IR now, so Merriweather will be the more likely of the two. I will also say Merriweather for now more likely to be called up than Pirine as well. But hopefully they don't need that too much. The first game is interesting, though, depending on if Marshawn Lloyd could go. We could see Ellis Merriweather maybe get activated for that game. King or Rochelle, I think, would be Rochelle. I think Rochelle is just going to be the better special teams guy, can play on the outside. You have plenty of guys who can play on the slot. So my guess would be Robert Rochelle. And if Eric Wilson was not in Green Bay, I would assume that Christian Welch probably would still be on this team. Now, if there was no Eric Wilson, would Green Bay maybe have added a different veteran linebacker or maybe drafted an extra one, which could have changed the calculus a little bit there? Maybe. But if it was just a straight up, if Eric Wilson wasn't on this team and nothing else changed, would Christian Welch be on the team? I think the answer to that would definitely be yes. Alex, the Packers found it easier to find a replacement for Aaron Rodgers than Mason Crosby. A very popular topic amongst Packers Twitter today, apparently, in some questions as to whether or not people are stealing that idea. Grant, I think Wisco Grant came up, or at least is credited for tweeting that first. I have seen it come up in chats. I've seen it come up on Twitter, in radio shows, etc. So yes, a very popular sentiment and a little bit of drama surrounding this topic on Packers Twitter. But yes, it would seem that so far the Packers have done a better job finding a replacement for Aaron Rodgers than for Mason Crosby. I would tend to agree. I was not surprised by 6 defensive ends and only 5 corners because this genius named Andy told me that it's really a 70-player roster and you're protecting the best 53 from waivers. That is not your game day roster. Snoop Bobby Rob, I appreciate that. I've definitely done a few deep dives on that. I was still a little surprised they kept 6 defensive ends. Not, again, I know exactly what you're talking about, and they do have the 70-man. I do wonder, and again, this is the benefit of hindsight, could they have gotten Aaron Mosby back on the practice squad and maybe kept an Anthony Johnson Jr.? Those are always questions that are, I'm sure, live within Brian Gutekunst for a couple of minutes, and then I'm sure he moves on. But you're trying to keep as many of the guys that you can. You can make the argument that Green Bay lost 4 guys, right? They lost Christian Welch, Royce Newman, Anthony Johnson Jr., and Grant Dubose. And I'm sure there's at least a piece of Goody thinking like, man, I wonder if we cut Aaron Mosby and kept one of those guys, would we still have both of them in some capacity? And maybe we would have got Mosby back on the practice squad. Maybe we would have got Zane Anderson back on the practice squad. Maybe the list goes on and on. Maybe we would have got Travis Glover back on the practice squad and we could have kept one of those other guys. I'm sure that stuff, like I said, churns through Goody's head for a moment, and then you just move on. You make the best decision that you can at the time. It could be the fact that, they would have kept the other guys, and the other guys could have got claimed, and then they would have lost out on the guys that they wanted more. So it's really difficult to make those decisions without the benefit of hindsight. We of course get that benefit now, but I'm not shocked that either Brenton Cox or Aaron Mosby made the 53. Slightly surprised that they both made it simultaneously and keeping 6 defensive ends, but that's a position you can never have enough of, and I certainly can understand Goody's thinking there. Per PFF, last season, Anderson had a special teams grade of only 54.1. Given his rep, I expected higher. Also, Johnson was trash 34.0, Sapp 242.2. Listen, it's a bad special teams group. They're probably 28th, 29th, I think, in the rankings last year overall. A bad special teams group is usually made up of bad special teams players. So I do think Zane Anderson is probably a little bit better than that. And the one thing I do not get into is grading special teams plays. I grade the offense, I grade the defense. Can't find it within me to do the special teams. I care a lot. I'm not sure I quite care that much, but I'd have to go back and watch it a little bit closer. I can't tell you an honest opinion of whether or not Zane Anderson's a really good special teams player or not, but I clearly Green Bay thinks he is, and that's why he's on this team. So I guess I'll trust Green Bay on that one. Also in preseason, Cox had 20 special team snaps and 71.9 grade. Guess he's improving. That's great to see. Mosby, 26 snaps with a 66.8. That was a great show with you and Rob on Packers Daily. I remember watching you long ago. Pleased you've done well. I'm sure it took and takes a lot of work to achieve all you've done. Hope it continues. Good luck. Omar, appreciate that a ton. It's been a crazy journey that I would not trade anything for in the world. And I forgot to say, by the way, that today's show brought to you by Luigi's Pizza. Here it's like I've made the note of like, hey, right when we start, Luigi's Pizza. Today is brought to you by Luigi's Frozen Pizza. So make sure that you are getting your Luigi's Frozen Pizza at your grocer. It is in 6 states nationwide. If it is not in your area, you should be requesting it from your grocer's manager. Go all Karen if you need to and demand Luigi's Frozen Pizza in your freezers at your favorite grocery store. It is worth it. It is the best thing in the world. You guys know, again, I wouldn't, steer you astray when it comes to pizza. The coolest part of this entire thing, and I've said this before, but I'll say it again, is how many people have tried Luigi's Frozen Pizza for the first time and have really like enjoyed it and tweeted out and be like, it's their new favorite frozen pizza. I've gone through a lot of other frozen pizzas. I won't name the names because that's giving them free advertisement, but all of them that you can name off the top of your head, trust me, I have tried them. I have been there. I have been in college. I know the cheap pizzas and stuff. There's a difference between your cardboard tasting frozen pizzas and what you are getting with Luigi's. And the cool thing is, like, I'm an equal opportunity pizza connoisseur. So it doesn't matter if it's thin crust, if it's thick crust, if it's self-fries, I will eat all of it. But they sometimes, certain pizza companies are known for one or the other. They have amazing both. And I literally swear to you, at times I cannot decide if I want their fresh dough pizza or if I want their ultra thin crust, because they are both insane. And it's literally like tearing me in two of trying to figure out which one I want. So brought to you by Luigi's Frozen Pizza. Make sure you get yourself some immediately and go devour as many as you can, because it'll be worth it. Here's a question for you. Why don't you have a live feed of the games? Someone to call the games as they are live. I know you can't telecast them, but like many podcasters do, even if it's not you. So I guess the second part, I could theoretically look into a little bit more of maybe having somebody do it on the stream. For me, it's different. So for all the home games, I am in the press box. So obviously not doing a live show if I'm in the press box. And if it's an away game, yes, I am at home. I theoretically could do it, but I would rather probably do a post-game show and break it down immediately after on those home games. I also feel like a big part of what I need to be able to do when I'm breaking it down later is pay close attention to that game so that I really know what happened and can speak educatedly on it as much as possible. Where I feel like if I'm doing this and this and this and this, I don't feel like I'm doing the best that I possibly can to cover that game. So for me, it's important that I get to watch the game live and can really, sort of digest what's going on in a significant way. And then even after that, even after I do that, every single time before I record the podcast the next day, even if it's the game ends at 10:30, I get home at 11:30, and then I, start putting notes together for the game, I will always go and watch the condensed version again, just to make sure I didn't miss anything or I wasn't forgetting anything before I record that next day's podcast. And I would feel really like if I didn't do those things, like I don't want to try to pretend that I'm speaking on something that I'm knowledgeable on when I was halfway doing this instead of watching the game and haven't watched that rewatch. So it's really important to me that I do digest all of that and don't do necessarily the live. Maybe someday I will. Maybe I'll change my mind on it at some point. But I really like the setup kind of as it currently is right now. See, the Packers released a live depth chart today with the pecking order. Some interesting stuff in that update for sure. Be good to hear your thoughts on it today. I think there wasn't anything too surprising, at least from what I saw in the breakdown. Marshawn Lloyd as running back 2 was, I think, somewhat interesting just because, of where he is from an injury standpoint right now. But remember, these are not official. So Willis 2, Jacobs, Lloyd, Wilson, Reed, Dobbs, and Watson, the starters, Wicks, Heath, and Melton, the backup, Walker, Jenkins, Myers, Ryan, Tom, Dillard, Morgan, Monk, Morgan, Telford. So Morgan listed as both left guard and right guard. Travis Glover on that third line. Ben Sims, tight end 3. Yeah, so nothing on offense is surprising at all. Gary Smith, Van Ness, Enigbare, Mosby Cox, Clark Slayton, Wyatt Brooks, Wooden is the 5th. McDuffie, Walker, Wilson, Hopper, Cooper. All these make sense. Alexander, Nixon. That's the one that is a little bit more interesting that they didn't do like a nickel corner, but I guess if you're going to do it that way, Alexander, Stokes, Nixon, Valentine on the third line, McKinney, Bullard, Anderson, Williams, and Oladapo on the 5th line. Yeah, I don't think there's anything that's remotely surprising of anything that's on there. I think it's all, I think we all could have filled that out probably together and got this about 99.9% correct. So pretty chalk is what I would kind of say. Brett Wiersma, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate that a ton. And a double one. Any NFC North, NFC prediction changes since training camp and preseason? Probably, yes. But I do have an episode coming up this week. I think I'm going to probably make it a members one, but I don't know for sure, of just kind of my season predictions. And I haven't had a chance to look at it super close yet. So that's definitely something I'll do in the next week. The NFC North has changed a little bit. So when it started, I definitely felt like probably Lions. I think they're just going to win more regular season games. When it comes to the playoffs, I think that's, if they were to match up, I think it'd be extremely close. But Lions, Packers, and then going into the offseason, I had Bears, Vikings. So Lions, Packers, Bears, Vikings. And then as I started watching JJ McCarthy more, and I know he was still losing out to Darnold at that point, that still, to me, what he was doing was giving them a lot more upside. And I was almost more trending towards Vikings 3 and Bears 4. And Caleb Williams was having some trouble with turnovers. And then, of course, McCarthy goes down for the year. Williams has settled in a little bit. So I will go back to probably, again, Lions, Packers. If you want to flip them, I'm totally cool with it. And then I would say Bears 3, Vikings 4. I know Sam Darnold maybe has an upside in this new offense and things. I still think that it's probably Sam Darnold, and that probably is what ultimately cost them. I still think they have some question marks on defense as well. So from an NFC North standpoint, I'm going to go Bears 3, Vikings 4, and then again, probably Lions 1, Packers 2. But I think it should be a really interesting and entertaining division. All right, what else we got here? Live off the wire, only one practice squad left now. Packers signing former Texas fullback Andrew Beck. Yeah, so he's a H-back fullback type. So he was somebody when he got cut, I honestly thought Green Bay might be interested in an active roster spot. Yeah, he's a better version of Josiah DeGuara, in my opinion. So I really like that pickup on the practice squad. Don't be surprised if he makes his way to the active roster at some point. That H-back fullback spot Matt usually likes on his roster. I think he can be somebody that helps Green Bay out at some point this year. Also had a crazy return for a touchdown on special teams once. Go check that out when you have a chance. I see you got the updates. Practice squad now full, I do believe, with these moves. Correct. Matt Schneidman, Matt on the new kicker. His first kick, it was a 56-yarder into the wind, and he nailed it. Jair actually, after a couple of his kicks, came up to me, and he's like, man, I love this guy. The early returns are very favorable up to this point. Interesting. I had not heard that, so that's really cool. All right. That was courtesy of Paul Brettel. So Ryan is starting right guard at week 1, apparently, which is probably wise with Morgan missing so much time. I'm sure he'll see a share of snaps off the bench just the same. I do think we could see some rotation there, but I definitely think Sean Ryan is probably the starter going into that game. That's a really good Philadelphia Eagles interior defensive line, specifically with Jalen Carter. I don't think you maybe necessarily want to put a rookie in there week 1. If you do, I think you probably give him maybe a couple drives here and there just to get his feet wet a little bit. But I do kind of expect that to be Sean Ryan a little bit more, although I would not base it off of the depth chart that is just PR stuff, and they don't even check with the coaches. The coach will look it over quick and be like, sure, whatever. But outside of that, it's not the coach that's putting it together. So don't base it off of that, but I do expect Sean Ryan to be the starter. Happy Friday, Andy. Hope you're having a good day. What do you think makes Matt LaFleur such a great coach? There's a lot. First of all, I think he's a really, really bright offensive mind. And I think that obviously doesn't necessarily make you a great head coach, but you got to be really great at something, right? You've got to have something that you can hang your hat on that makes you really good, and gives you that leg up on just a coach that is just a leader of men, so to speak. So I do think that his offensive mind and prowess gives him that extra something. I think one of the things that he does incredibly well is he can really find that beautiful balance between really challenging his players and being demanding while also sort of being a player's coach. And that is one of the toughest things to do. A lot of the coaches that are demanding, that are constantly wearing on you, the Tom Thibodeaus of the world, the Rex Ryans of the world, the Bill Belichick's of the world. Obviously, Belichick's the greatest of all time. So he found a little bit of a balance there as well. But a lot of those coaches, they will wear on you over time. And teams will get stale of that, and they'll get sick of it, and they'll kind of want something different, and they can almost like rebel against it at times. And teams that are just, hey, the players run the show, and they have like, those can go in a very negative or bad direction as well, where it's, kind of like the players are just more running the team and there's less structure, and that doesn't always lend itself to a great environment either. But I think finding that sweet spot where you are demanding and challenging, but you're also very positive and you're open to ideas, and you have, I think that is what always really is impressive for me for Matt. And I just think he has a great pulse on the team. I think he takes care of his players. I think he legitimately cares about the players. So I think he just has a really beautiful balance of all the different things. And then he does a good job of keeping his pulse on the other thing. I think he probably should have done maybe a little bit of a better job of maybe keeping an eye over Joe Barry a little bit more, but there's a fine line there too, right? You don't want to be micromanagey at that spot. You can tell special teams is Rich Bisaccia's, and you can tell defenses, are with the defensive coordinators. So like, he is allowing those guys to go out and do their job. And I think that's what you need to do. If you try to do everything as a head coach, you will do nothing, because there is way too much and you cannot take all that on. A coach already has like 100-hour work week. You just can't take on more of it. So I think he does a really great job of all of that stuff. Are there things that he can do better? Of course, absolutely. Every coach can, but I think Green Bay's in a really great spot with Matt LaFleur right now. And I think he does a tremendous job as a head coach. Ralph, are you worried about the playing surface in Brazil? I haven't heard anything about it. I haven't seen it. I haven't been given any reason to worry about it yet. But if you're telling me that there is a reason to worry, then I guess I'll look into it a little bit more. But hopefully there's not. And hopefully everything there goes off without a hitch. I think some of this stuff just feels a little like fear-based. Like I can guarantee you I'd probably be more worried about playing on Soldier Field or like one of these, turf teams like the Jets and Giants play on, then probably, and I don't know, maybe they're a turf team, and maybe I can't speak educatedly about it, but it just feels like there's a lot of like, oh, there's going to be so many bad things that happen when they go to Brazil. I'm pretty sure 99.9% of it is probably going to be just fine, and it's going to be a fun football game, and we'll all be excited about it. But I haven't looked into it close enough to say whether or not I should be nervous about it. But if somebody else has info in the chat and they want to throw it in there, we can take a look at it together. All right, where do we leave off? Thoughts on Kalen King coming into the season? I think he's in a great spot on the practice squad to continue to develop. And I don't think anyone else is going to pick him up off of that. I think he'll probably stay on the practice squad through the course of the year. If they have some injuries, I think he can come in and maybe help them, or at least be a depth piece for them. So I think right now this season will be about really developing and making sure that he can become the best corner that he can become for probably 2025. And hey, at some point they may need him this year. And if so, stay ready, be ready. But for now, I think the hope is that they don't need him this year, and he can continue to develop on the practice squad through the majority of 2024. If you could see 10 years into the future, do you know if the Packers won any Super Bowls? What would you want to? Oh, if I could. No, I probably would not. I guess maybe from like a gambling standpoint, it could have some value. But I would, as a fan, I would probably not want to know. No. I mean, I guess as a pundit, I could be like, I can guarantee you that the Packers will win a Super Bowl in the next 10 years. I don't know. I'll take the surprise. Dennis, go on Packer Fan Total Access with Clayton. I have been on there before, if I remember correctly, Dennis. I think I have been on there once before. How nervous are you about getting off to a good start versus the run? Um, not nervous, because I think there's going to be things that this team needs to clean up no matter what. I want this team playing its best football in January and February. So, I'm not nervous about it yet. There's going to be things that don't go right week 1 and week 2 and week 3, and then there'll be a middle of the season dip, and there's going to be things that this team has to learn. I think that's the number one thing that I wish everyone, not everyone, but I wish people would do a better job of, is understanding, like, there has to be points in the season where you have these learning moments. And maybe it can only be a couple games here or there. Maybe you can go 15-2 and learn those lessons in those 2 games. But the lessons that you learn through the course of the season are extremely important. And there's going to be those things that they need to figure out and get better at. Because if they don't, and they don't learn those lessons, then they're probably things that teams in the playoffs will take advantage of, because they never learned those lessons in the first place. So I think that's one of the things. Is I wish there was a bit more grace, that the regular season is not a zero-sum game. You cannot win or lose the Super Bowl in one game in the regular season. Now, if they get to the point where every game is a must win, or they start the season 2-4 or something like that, all right, then it's time to, like, you need to start stacking some wins. And now the wins and losses really matter. But if you're staying, a game or two above 500 for the most part through the course of the year, or at least in that range, and you're in the playoff hunt, learn those lessons, get better, and start playing your best football towards the end of the year. And I know that number 1 seed is very valuable, and gives you that opportunity to have that bye week. But to me, just focus on being the best version of yourself come January and February, and take your puncher's chance into the playoffs and see what you can do with it. Let's see. Andy, what is something you are most excited about this season? Go Pack Go. Great question, Will. I'm very excited about the different weapons on this offense and how they utilize all of them, from Tucker Kraft to Davien Wicks, Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Josh Jacobs, Marshawn Lloyd. We can go on and on. Even Ben Sims, Emmanuel Wilson. I just think it has a really fun group of playmakers, and I cannot wait to see how they utilize all those guys. I'm super excited about Jeff Hafley's defense, just watching it. There's going to be ups and downs. I know that, but I'm excited to see how he goes about calling plays, how this defense responds to it. That I'm super excited about. And I think there's a lot of just really great individual games on the schedule. The Texans, the 49ers, like even Eagles week 1, I think is a super intriguing matchup. Like, we can go on and on. The both Lions games, both Bears games will feel like high stakes. The Vikings games will feel like high stakes. Like, I think there are very few games on the schedule that feel like, this is just kind of a throwaway game. Things can change as the season goes on, and you start developing records, and you're like, that team sucks. Maybe the Saints are brutal by the second half of the year. Could see that happening. But for now, I think the schedule is really intriguing. And I think there's a lot of things on both the offensive and defensive sides of the ball that are worth keeping an eye on. Not to mention a new kick return rule with Keyshawn Nixon back there returning. Like, it's hard pressed to find a game or a area of the team that is not exciting in some way, shape, or form. But the weapons on offense and Jeff Hafley's defense are probably 2 that come top of mind. Will Morgan and Lloyd play week 1? Also, how is Edgerrin Cooper? I believe Morgan will be active week 1. I don't know if he will necessarily play week 1, but I believe he'll be active. Cooper, we don't know. He's practicing individual. We don't know if he's doing team as of yet, but that'll be one to keep an eye on. My guess is he will probably be active week 1, but don't know that for sure. And Lloyd, I think, will be more of the toss-up. As of now, I would say there's maybe a better chance that it's going to be Wilson as the 2 and they call up like Merriweather as the 3. But if he can get ready in time and play in time, then that would be a great piece to have there. All right. Tyler, does Green Bay prioritize quarterback in the 25 draft, or is that dependent on how Willis looks? I don't think they will prioritize quarterback no matter what. Jordan Love is on the highest paying quarterback contract. They're not going to go into it feeling like, all right, we got to find a really good quarterback out of this draft. That will not happen no matter what. Even if Willis is garbage, they will not go in that direction. If Willis is not good and they feel like he can't be the backup, they will go into the offseason, either in free agency or in the draft, definitely feeling like they need to upgrade that position. But that could be, again, a $5 million free agent, some sort of vet that they get to the team. It could be like Taylor Heineke just got traded. Like there are guys that you can get available. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a draft pick at this point, but it'll be up to Willis first. If Willis looks good, he'll just be the backup next year. If he does not, then you end up in a situation where you probably need to, look for one either in free agency or the draft. But again, I wouldn't necessarily say prioritize it. All right. Hi, Andy. Hi, Joey. How are you? One thing I noticed in following your extensive coverage of training camp, Love seems to have thrown quite a bit of picks. Are you concerned? Zero concern. Absolutely zero concern. I think in practice, there's an incentive for quarterbacks, especially young quarterbacks, to take some chances. That's a good thing to do. You kind of want to test the abilities and your strengths as a thrower of like, what can I get away with? What can I not get away with? Those are great times to experiment with that stuff and feel like, hey, I think I can fit this into that window. And then you quickly realize, oh, nope, cannot fit that into that window. Let's not do that again. I thought Jordan did a great job, especially in the second half of last year, of taking great care of the football. If you told me that his interceptions went up by 1 or 2 this year, that would not surprise me at all. I think that's within the realm of possibility. But am I concerned overall about the turnovers and that's going to be all of a sudden a big, issue for Jordan? Not even remotely. I think he's going to be just fine and go back to taking care of the football like he did, especially in the second half of last year. Joey, thank you so much for that. Appreciate that a ton as well. All right. Where do we leave off? Left off with Cooper. Woohoo, get to see Andy's bonus stuff. Love it. Dan Verdict, am I wrong to be really psyched to see what Emmanuel Wilson can do as well as Jacobs? You're certainly not wrong. I would say really psyched, maybe a little over aggressive. If you're excited and want to see what he can do, I get that. That's normal. Who knows? Sometimes you get those opportunities as a running back. They take them, make the most of it, and they become a really, really good football player. So I will not be disappointed to see Emmanuel Wilson in the game. That's for sure. I'll be intrigued to see what he can do, but really psyched is probably maybe a little bit aggressive, but yeah, he's a fun player. And I am excited to see if he does get those opportunities against Philly in week 1, what he can do with them. All right. Ken, heard a snippet that Wicks injured his hammy and is out for 6 weeks, but I searched online and didn't see anything. What's the truth on this? I hope not. I don't think I haven't seen anything like that. And I certainly feel like I would have seen something come through from somebody reputable. Yeah. So I haven't seen anything come through. So hopefully that is not true. Unless I'm missing something. I don't think I am. Schneidman tweeted something. Nope, it's just the Brazil Twitter thing. So no, I think we're good. Knock on wood. Can you give us an NFC North update after preseason? Any predictions? We went over that, Brett. If you love Andy as much as I do, you're going to love Packer Fan Total Access. All right, we get it. We get it. Packer Fan Total Access, very good show. Do you see Wilson ever matching Jamal Williams and Dillon's best production as a running back too? Yeah, I could see that happening. I'm not saying I necessarily expect it, but if you told me there's a world in which Emmanuel Wilson became a really good number 2 running back and could be, I think he has a really good chance of being better than what AJ Dillon was a year ago. I think he absolutely can do that. And if you told me, I think we are having a little bit of a revisionist history with Jamal where because he went on to Detroit and New Orleans and had some really good seasons, but his Green Bay seasons were mostly just kind of like slightly above average to good. So yeah, I think Emmanuel Wilson can absolutely reach both of those. All right, Brett, thank you for this. If you follow high school football at all, what team should your followers in the Green Bay Fox Valley area, Wrightstown, looking good so far this year at? Hopefully return to state. I do not follow high school football at all, Brett. It is hard enough for me to follow college football and like the Brewers as much as I would like. I know they got a big win today. Hopefully they can get another one later today. The Bucks as much as I would like. The Packer thing is basically consumed all of my free time with all the other stuff. And that's a good thing. It's a really cool, unique blend of making it this unbelievable, awesome hobby with my job, but it is definitely a very time consuming thing. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, but things like high school football and some of the other ones certainly take a hit because I focus so much, obviously, on the NFL and specifically the Green Bay Packers. Joy, thank you for all you do. On a funny note, every time you were that hated, I feel like I just joined a Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. On a funny note, every time you were that hate, I don't know what Joey, let me know. Maybe I'm reading it incorrectly. I feel like I just joined a Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm not sure. Let me know. I'll see if I can find it in a normal chat. Who is the Packer you think is most qualified to make the Olympic flag football team? My pick is Nixon. Nixon would be a good one because he can play offense, defense. He can do a little bit of everything. Jair would probably be a pretty solid pick in what he can do. Jaden Reed would probably be a pretty interesting pick. What else? Those would be the ones that would come to mind. Jordan Love's not a bad pick. Malik Willis, probably not a bad choice either. Malik Willis would probably be a heck of a choice in a flag football league. So those would be probably some of the ones that would immediately come to mind. Yeah, I'll go with those. Malik Willis or Keyshawn Nixon are probably two very, very good answers. All right. Where else do we leave off? Said that sentiment on the Silverstein game blog, but I gave credit. Oh, it's a great take. Crosby is the top scorer in team history. Got it. Can you give us, we did that. Andy, can you name all 5 kickers we had in camp and got cut? No notes. I always forget there was a Russell one, right? And then Jack Podlesny, Alex Hale, Anders Carlson, Greg Joseph, something Russell, right? Yeah, I can't remember that one because it was such a short period of time. He was there for a hot second. So you're gonna have to correct me on that one. But all the other ones, and then obviously Narvison is the new one. So I think I got the other ones, but I thought it was something Russell, but I could be mistaken. With the lack of experience at running back, is that a downside for blocking for Love? It can be, yeah. I think that's the one concern that you maybe have a little bit. Jacobs is a good pass pro guy. He'll be just fine. He's not great at it, but he's good enough at it. And then Wilson and Lloyd are going to have to really get up to speed in that regard. No question about it. Should the Packers have a kicker sit with a veteran similar to how they manage the quarterbacks? I don't know. Maybe. That's a tough thing to do, obviously, a kicker, though. Is this a Rich Bisaccia put up or shut up season? I think it should be. I don't know that it is. I think there's a lot of respect for Rich in that building. He's the assistant head coach as well. So I don't think that it is. And I think the thing that Matt has to be careful about too is he's kind of gone through a lot of coordinators in a very short period of time. So I don't think he kind of wants to get this MO of like every single sign of anything that goes wrong is just a firing of the coordinator. So I don't think it will be. I think Rich will be back next year no matter what. But I do think if it's a really bad special teams year, that at least that there should be a conversation there. Is Monk going to be starting at center next year? Well within the realm of possibility. I think they're, again, going to have to go through, though. It could be a Sean Ryan, right? He could move into center. It could be Elton Jenkins. It could be Zach Tom. Just depends on how they kind of want to build and shape that roster out. You know, they have 6 guys kind of right now. Let's say Josh Myers is gone. I could easily, and Sean Ryan's spent a decent amount of time at center. I could see a world in which it's Rasheed Walker at left tackle, and then Jordan Morgan still at right guard, Zach Tom at right tackle. And then you decide between, do you want Elton at left guard and Sean Ryan at center? Or do you want Sean Ryan at left guard and Elton at center? I could make a strong argument of a Rasheed Walker, Sean Ryan, Elton Jenkins, Jordan Morgan, and Zach Tom lineup for next year. I think that could make a lot of sense, actually. So that could be it. And then, of course, Jacob Monk, I think, will be very much in that conversation as well. So I still don't see a world in which it's Zach Tom. I think he'll stay at right tackle and Rasheed will stay at left tackle. But if you told me it was, you know, Monk or Jenkins or Sean Ryan, I could definitely see worlds in which that would happen. Holy cow, Tyler. Thank you so much for that. Watson and Dobbs are going into year 3. What do you need to see for them to be this year that it would make you feel comfortable doing a contract extension in the offseason, or is an extension more likely after next season? Those are going to be really interesting conversations with all those wide receivers over the course of the next few years and how they kind of decide who to keep and who not to keep. My guess is they're not going to want to probably get involved too much with Dobbs or Watson until the following year to see a little bit more of where Dobbs and Watson are at, especially if Watson has a great year this year. I think they might want to see him be healthy for one more year before they maybe make that determination as well. But those are going to be super interesting conversations and negotiations. I could see a world in which, you know, maybe they only bring one of those guys back and they have to choose between Dobbs and Watson. I could also see a world in which maybe they draft another wide receiver next year and they continue to develop all these guys and they get to the end of Dobbs and Watson and they say, we thank you for your service. Good luck elsewhere. We still have Wicks. We still have Jaden Reed. We drafted another wide receiver in 2025 that's really good. We still have Bo Melton. We still have Malik Heath. We're good. We've got 5 guys. They're still super cheap. You guys go get your money elsewhere. We don't want to spend a ton of money at this position. We're going to keep churning it, keep it young, keep it fresh, and go in that direction too. So I think both of them are going to need pretty significant seasons in order for there to be a massive contract extension next year. And there's probably only one of those, even if they both had amazing seasons, they'd probably have to choose between one or the other would kind of be my guess. Sorry, I meant hat just screams Tampa Bay. The hat scream. Oh, the colors maybe. I guess the orange color definitely feels maybe it's not. It's more pink in person than it is like a Tampa orange, but I can definitely see where you're saying that over the video for sure. I really like McCrary. What's your thoughts on him? I do too. He just went on practice squad IR though. So I don't know how serious that is, if it's going to be something that is out for a while or just hopefully a short period of time. He's going to have to do the other things too, blitz pick up and catch the ball to the backfield a little bit better. But as a runner, I liked what I saw. I really did. So cool find by Goody at the end of camp there, but the injury is probably going to set him back right now. All right. Did I get the wrong idea about how close the kicking competition was between Joseph and Carlson? I don't know. Either way, both of them are gone. I think that's the most important thing, right? Regardless of how close they were both closer to the exit list. So they're both gone. They have a new kicker in, and hopefully Braden Narveson is the answer moving forward. Josiah, new member, have been listening since May. Love your content, Josiah. Appreciate that a ton. Thank you so much for signing up and hope you're enjoying all the new content. Help me for my fantasy football draft. The best thing you could do, although I will say this. All right, let me read you this. This is my fantasy lineup of one fantasy lineup. This is the league that we got, by the way. These are the people that are in the league. We have myself, Andrew Merteg from the Pack-A-Day podcast, Maggie Loney, of course, Pack-A-Day and Packs What She Said, Dusty Evely, Pack-A-Day, and of course he's on Acme Packing Company as well. Maggie Loney's husband is in the league, and then Sanjay, who you can find all around the Packer sphere. Kyle Fellows, Pack-A-Day podcast, Tom Grossi, of course, Perry Goldstein, Aaron Alice, who you can find. I think she's what's the Game On Wisconsin, if I remember correctly. Dan Kotnick, Pack-A-Day, and then Matub. I think he does some work for Acme Packing, but you can find him, of course, on Packers Twitter as well. That's our league. This is my team. This is my dynasty team that, by the way, won the championship in our first year last year. Humble brag. Jalen Hurts at quarterback, Kenneth Walker at running back, James Cook at running back, Amon-Ra St. Brown at wide receiver, Puka Nacua at wide receiver, Dalton Kincaid at tight end, Brandon Ayuk at flex, Tony Pollard at flex, Lamar Jackson as my second quarterback that you can also have as a flex. And then my backups, just really quick here, Matthew Stafford, Roshan Johnson, Carson Steele, Tank Bigsby, Michael Wilson from the Cardinals, Devontae Walker, Mike Williams, Darius Slayton, Darnell Mooney, Demario Douglas from the Pats, Isaiah Likely, and then my practice squad is Jatavian Sanders, the tight end, Jermaine Burton, the wide receiver, and Tyron Tracy, the running back. So we are ready for another championship. But to answer your question, usually do not trust me with fantasy questions is my general theme. But right now we're going in for a double championship win against all of your favorite Packers people. So we're going 2 for 2. Let's see. I thought I saw some super chats come in. Allison just gifted a Pack-A-Day membership. Thank you so much for that, Allison. Super appreciate it. And then Celestial Prophet, can you see Dobbs being like the Jordy Nelson to Love the way Jordy was to Rodgers? I don't think quite to that level, but you definitely do see a chemistry there with Dobbs and Love that I think is ahead of where any of the chemistry is with any of the other wide receivers. So I don't think it's quite that, ESP that Rodgers and Nelson had or Rodgers and Devontae had, where they just kind of knew at all times exactly where they were going to be. And they were both just all three of those guys were such insane special players. But I do think he has better chemistry with Dobbs than any of the other receivers. And I definitely think that helps out their connection quite a bit. All right. All right, I'm going to try to get to some member chats now. Andy, do you think Bullard replaces Nixon at some point this season? No. However, I think you're going to see different. This is not Joe Barry's defense. This is not, we're going to do the same thing every single week against every single opponent, against every single matchup. And that's just what we're going to do. Having Keyshawn Nixon go against every small, speedy wide receiver, big, fast, strong wide receiver, your Wes Welker type, in and out wide receivers. Christian McCaffrey can be out there. Jameer Gibbs can be out there. It can be Travis Kelce. It can be George Kittle. It can be Mark Andrews. You can see the best of the best tight ends, running backs, and wide receivers line up in the slot of all different shapes, sizes, abilities. And then not only that, you have to be able to blitz off the edge. You have to be able to take on blockers in the run game, make physical tackles in the run game. You might see Trent Williams pulling out at you. You might see guards pulling out at you, fullbacks like Kyle Juszczyk. to say that one person, unless you are Charles Woodson in your prime, unless you are maybe Jalen Ramsey in your prime, there are very few players in the history of the NFL that can play that spot and do just about everything. So to say, like, yeah, good luck, Keyshawn Nixon, no matter if it's Justin Jefferson or Travis Kelce or any of those guys we just named, you go out there and you do your best job. Good luck, buddy. That's ridiculous. And that's no knock on Keyshawn at all. I think he's a good player. But if you can add Javon Bullard in there against some certain matchups and have him maybe be the guy that's taking on some of those blocks and maybe matching up against some bigger tight ends, I think that can be advantageous. I also wouldn't hate if it's 3rd and 15 and it's an obvious passing down and Justin Jefferson's in the slot. Hey, maybe you put Jair in the slot in that situation and you put Valentine and Stokes on the outside as your outside corners. We maybe think of that before. Maybe that would be a good thing to try from time to time. So I just love the fact that I think they have multiple flavors of people who can play in that slot, from Jair Alexander to Keyshawn Nixon to Javon Bullard. And I think Keyshawn Nixon is your primary one. I think you will stay your primary one. And I think that's a good thing. But I think you're going to see Bullard there in certain instances. I think you could even see Jair there in some obvious passing situations. So I love that there are different options that Green Bay has. And this is not Joe Barry. I do believe that you're going to see Jeff Hafley utilize those different options. Let's see. Other member chats here. Did Nixon show improvement in the slot during camp? I do think he has, but I think, towards the end of last year, there was already some signs of improvement. And again, I think a lot of times he got put in some really tough situations in Joe Barry's defense. So I don't think he's ever going to be a shutdown man corner in the slot, but I think he's a good player that can do a lot of things that they're asking of him. And I still expect him to kind of be that primary slot corner going into the year. Hope Cooper gets some snaps if he's healthy. He's my fave of this draft class. Listen, Edgerrin Cooper, once he's fully healthy, is going to get snaps. How many is going to remain up to him, but they will weaponize him in some way and get him in some packages. I would be shocked if that were not the case. Let's see. Michael, hey, Andy, thanks so much for doing these. I keep hearing how deep the team is. I agree. We have a lot of good talent, but do we have enough great talent to take the next step? I think they do. I really do. Now it's going to take some of those guys playing at the peak of their powers. This team really needs Xavier McKinney to be close to an all-pro. They need Jair Alexander to be close to an all-pro. They need Rashawn Gary to be close to an all-pro. They need Kenny Clark to not be all-pro, but they need him to be, really, really good Kenny Clark. They can't have like average to good Kenny Clark. They need really, really good Kenny Clark. They need Zach Tom to be one of the best right tackles in football. They need Elton Jenkins to be what he is capable of, and I think have an opportunity to put his best season together yet at left guard. They need Josh Jacobs to be maybe not quite 2022 Josh Jacobs, but really freaking good Josh Jacobs. They need Jordan to show that the second half of last season was not a fluke, and that's the quarterback that he can be week in and week out. So I think they have all the playmakers that they need. I don't think there's any question about that, but you need those players that I just mentioned to be playing here. They can't be here. They can't be here. They certainly can't be lower than that. They have to be towards the peak of their powers. And if all of those players are playing at their best, this team can beat any team, any week, period, end of story, and can absolutely take that next step. Let's see. All right, Preston, if the Packers, and thank you all for the super chats. You guys are incredible. If the Packers win the Super Bowl, what do you believe the reasons would be versus if they lost in the playoffs? I think it's kind of what we're talking about. I think their best players need to be at their best. They need some guys to take that next jump. Devontae Wyatt, such a great opportunity at defensive tackle to take that jump. TJ Slayton in a contract year. Can he be the player that we all know and expect that he can be in this defense? Can an LVN or a Kingsley Enagbare take a jump? Can Eric Stokes play at worst like rookie Eric Stokes, if not maybe even a little bit better than that? Can Carrington Valentine take a jump? Bullard and Williams, can those guys be really good players right out the gate and be starting caliber or better from day one and at least towards the end of the year when they're really going to need it come playoff time? Offensive line, what does Jordan Morgan give you? Sean Ryan, is Rasheed Walker as good as he showed in camp and really take that next step as a big time left tackle in this league? Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave, Jaden Reed, Davien Wicks. We can go on and on. Can Christian Watson stay healthy for the entirety of the year? But it doesn't have to be all of those that are answered yes. I think even if you get a good chunk of those that are answered yes, you're going to be in a phenomenal spot. There's just so much young, exciting talent on this. And I didn't even name some. I didn't even name Edgerrin Cooper, Marshawn Lloyd. We can go on and on. There's so much young, exciting talent. But injuries are going to play a huge part in this. And then just do they play their best football at the right time? They've had opportunities to win big games. They could have beat Tampa in the NFC Championship game. They could have beat the 49ers in the game that they lost in the blocked punt game. They could have beat the 49ers last game. Like they've had the opportunities. It has not been for lack of talent or lack of coaching. They are in those games. They are capable of winning. And now it's going in those games, playing their best football and actually winning those football games. Dan, give us your best guess as to who has the most receptions, wide receiver, tight end, running back, top to bottom of the main guys. I don't know if you want position by position. I'll just say this. Jayden Reed to me is going to, I think, lead the team in receptions. And I've said this since the beginning of the offseason pretty much. I think he has the most defined role within this offense. He's going to be the slot guy the vast majority of the time. Wicks will get time everywhere. Watson will get time everywhere. Dobbs will get time everywhere. Melton might see some time here and there. You're going to see some running back rotations. You're going to see some tight ends in and out. But I think Jayden Reed is not only, again, the guy that has the most defined role. I think you could see him have the most snaps on offense. And I think he's the guy they kind of scheme the most as well. So I will say Jayden Reed has the most receptions as a wide receiver. I will say Tucker Kraft has the most receptions at tight end. Yes, Kraft has the most receptions at tight end. And I will say Josh Jacobs has the most receptions at running back. But Jayden Reed overall. Nicholas Miles, the Dillon situation feels comparable to Jonathan Franklin. Nicholas, I know the feeling. I hope you're wrong. I hope Dillon does not have any sort of career ending or career threatening injury. I hope he's able to make it back. I hope that Green Bay and he have to figure out an injury settlement at some point this year because he's ready to play and wants to go play for another team. I hope all of those things are available to AJ because he worked insanely hard to get where he is. He's a workout warrior. He's done everything in his power to be in the best shape possible. And you never want to see somebody's career derailed from any injury, much less a neck injury. So I certainly understand where you're coming from. And I know Jonathan Franklin had that brutal neck injury, but hopefully it is not the same for AJ Dillon. 1 week, Andy, just 1 week. Let's go. It's so close. It is so freaking close. I cannot wait. I'm so excited for this season. Try to get to a couple more here. I'm going to go to the bottom of the list here. Andy, I'm the only one who is optimistic about this year's team as I was in 2011. Am I the only one who is optimistic about this year's team as I was in 2011? I hope, Rick, that you're wrong. I hope you are optimistic as you were in 2010. 2010 would be a better matchup. I don't think this team's going to go, 16-1 or whatever. But again, having some of those learning lessons through the course of the year is a great way to go. And then playing their best football at the end and making that run. I do think there's a lot of similarities to this team to 2010. So much so that I think in 2010, when I was going into that year and even like the year before, I always thought 2011 was where that team was going to be best, was when we were going to see the best version of the Green Bay Packers. And, arguably from a regular season standpoint, that was true, but it was the 2010 team that won the Super Bowl. And for the last couple of years and this year, all I've been kind of saying is like, I think 2025 is when this team has the ability to be their best. And that might be true, but 2024 could be when they put it all together and actually win the thing. So I do think there's a lot of similarities between the 2024 Packers and the 2010 Packers. And hopefully that has a very similar result at the end of the year as well. You should let a fan join you for the live videos, bid it off for a great charity. Yeah, could do that at some point. I like the idea. I like what you're thinking there. Jayden Reed is my niece's favorite player. Great choice. If she doesn't have a jersey yet, you should probably pick her up a jersey. Alex, how do you feel about Michigan football, Jim Harbaugh, et cetera, with the sign stealing allegations last year? Can't speak, again, smart enough on it. I know there was all the sign stealing allegations. The one guy was the athletic trainer or something that was doing all the stuff and going to different games, but have not followed that story close enough. Again, if I try to be an expert on everything, I will be an expert on nothing. So my focus is on the Packers. And, it's unfortunate that a lot of times in these college scandals, and I don't know enough of it to be like, should they have been punished more or whatever, but that they take place after. Michigan already won the national championship, right? Like they got rewarded for whatever they were doing, good, bad, ugly, indifferent. They got their national championship. So you can strip it of them after. You can do whatever you want to do and punish them and take away Scott. They got their national championship. It's done. It's over. Like they got their reward out of it. So whatever they did, it worked. And whatever the punishment is, I don't know if it fit the crime or not, but hopefully in those situations, the crime fits, or the punishment fits the crime. Andy, when are you going to change your background? I don't know. No idea. Not anything that's in my. Here's the thing. If I could just like change it and make it like unbelievably amazing and be like, oh, it's the coolest effing background ever, I would do so right now. I'm not like, that is not that. Talk about things that I'm not an expert on. Background displays and all that stuff is not. So yeah, could I make like, this is my office. So I don't know. I can make you can see it over here. You can see the lights I got going on here. Yeah, I've got the bookshelf over there with some books and some cards and all the Live Lucky hats up there. You can see the Live Lucky hats. We've got the Pack-A-Day 1000th episode that the team got for me. You can see the nice view I have outside. We've got the TV up there. And yeah, so that's the office. Could I figure out something better behind me? Probably. Would there be like maybe like a cool bookshop or a bookshelf view somewhere? Maybe. Let's see. Now I'm all blurry. Can I fix it? All right. That's good enough for now. All right, that'll work for now. But yeah, that's the office. Welcome to my office. But yeah, so at some point, could there be something better back there? Maybe. But no, for now, it works. I'll add one more thing on top of this. I know you guys would like, maybe different highlights and pictures that are in the edited version of the video when they go live every day, and maybe a different background or things like that. My forte is talking Packers. If you're coming for flashy lights and different highlights and things like that, first of all, the reason I don't do video, by the way, are like highlights and things like that is for copyright purposes. I'm not willing to risk it. This is my livelihood now. So I'm not willing to potentially get taken down for some sort of copyright hit. So you would be so easy, by the way, to like just, and I did this for like a couple other things, but like you have no idea how easy it is for me to just pull up highlights and like and film and like break down film. It would be the best content I could possibly do, and it'd be like the easiest content I could possibly do. But it gets, I know like QB school, the NFL for the most part has not done it much as of yet, but college football will. That's why like QB school, why he like was very careful and put all of his college football stuff behind a Patreon page, is because he got hit after hit after hit, and it was a major issue for him. So that's why you're not seeing that. But the other thing is like why you're not seeing crazy stuff behind me or like pictures in the videos or things like that is my focus is on getting you the best actual content that I can provide to you, meaning the actual verbal stuff, the stuff that I'm talking about, the detail of what we go over on every single episode. It is, if I'm being honest with you, it is an audio podcast that is masked as a YouTube video, right? I put it up on the audio side as well. If you don't want to see my face, which is obviously amazing, if you don't want to see that every day, you can get the same thing on the audio podcast 365 days a year. And you don't have to go to the YouTube. You can go check it out wherever you get your favorite audio podcast. And that's totally fine. No problem with that whatsoever. But this is primarily a audio podcast that I am doing on YouTube as an extra vertical, basically, to get more people access to it. But that's what it's going to be, at least for the foreseeable future, because I don't have the time in my day to do any sort of extra editing and putting photos in. I am at my absolute peak of what I can do to, for everything right now. So, and then the obvious other question would be, and I know this is not why you probably showed up to the chat, so I apologize, but I get these questions a lot. Oh, why don't you just have somebody edit it for you? Well, a lot of my videos are recorded at 1 a.m. in the morning, every morning, and are like done at like 2 a.m. and they go live at 5 a.m. So if there is somebody that is interested in doing the video editing daily from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m., I would potentially be interested in having a conversation with you if you are interested in doing that. I'm not saying I will do it, but I would at least have a conversation about it. And you have to be really good at it too. I don't just want anything. So that's the reason why you're getting this every day, is because my 99.9% of my energy is going towards making sure that I am speaking educatedly enough on what I want to talk about on a daily topic, the research that goes into it, the watching of the film, the breaking it down, putting the notes together for what I want to talk about, and then again, editing the episode at the end of the day to get it up on YouTube. So that's the way that the structure is. I don't necessarily see the structure changing. You're stuck with Bart. You're stuck with me. You're stuck to number 81 on the Colts. You're not going to get a ton of highlights in the videos. It's just me talking football. That's what it's supposed to be. Not going to be everyone's cup of tea. That's totally cool. There's a lot of really awesome Packers content out there. I don't need to monopolize it. Go spread yourself and have fun with all the other stuff. It's really, really good stuff. But if this is what you like, I will be here for you 365 days a year, every single freaking day, talking Packers. And that's what this channel will be dedicated to, probably for now, until the end of time, or until somebody steps up from 2 a.m. to 5 in the morning and really wants to edit some videos expertly and does an amazing job at it. All right. Enough of my soapbox of that. Favorite beer, Andy? Door County Cherry Wheat from Hinterland is probably my favorite. I know it's probably not like the creme de la creme of beers if we're getting, like, oh, does it have the right, hop to whatever ratio? I don't effing know, but it's delicious and I love it every single time. So that's one of my favorites. I really do like Rogue Dead Guy Nut Brown. If you want something that's actually probably more of like a really well done beer, that's one of my all-time favorites. That is a delicious freaking beer. So yeah, those are probably two of my favorites. All right. Let's see. I watch you for the Packers news, bro. Love it. All right. Totally my cup of tea. Thank you, Andy. Amy, you are more than welcome. That's a great place to end for today. You guys are the absolute best. I sincerely appreciate your support so freaking much. I do appreciate that this is your cup of tea if you are showing up and watching these 365 days a year, however many days you're here. If this is your first one, welcome. Thank you for being here. We love talking Packers. We love Luigi's Pizza. And again, make sure to check out Luigi's Pizza. Follow them at Luigi's Pizza. They have the best frozen pizzas in the world. Love partnering with them. They're the absolute best. I'm hoping still someday, hey, if you want to do me a favor, tweet at Luigi's Pizza and make sure that they are aware that you want a pack-a-day frozen pizza. Tell them that you want a pack-a-day pizza and tell them what toppings that you want on it, because we need to make the pack-a-day pizza happen. How awesome would it be if you went into your frozen pizza section and just saw a pack-a-day pizza there waiting for you? It'd be the best thing in the world. So make sure to let them know. That's going to do it for me today. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Week 1 is next week. Enjoy the Badger game tonight for those who are Wisconsin fans. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.